All right, welcome to the Middle School Roundtable. We have already proven that middle school teachers have the most fun, and I am here with some of the best, most excited PE teachers out there, and so I'm glad to be bringing this group to you. Just to start, I want to just say hi. My name is Matt Pomeroy. You can find me on Twitter at physed_Pomeroy. I'm part of the Phys-Ed-A-Go-G team that put together the Phys-Ed Summit. And just want to remind you that the Phys-Ed Summit was completely organized by physical educators, and it was all set up by physical educators, and all of our sessions were really developed and asked for by teachers that are out there. Once we found the sessions and the ideas that people wanted, we asked for presenters to present on those topics. So everything is organic, everything is grassroots, everything is free, and everyone is a volunteer. And that's what the Phys Ed Summit is, and we're trying to bring you PD in your PJs. Maybe some of us are still sipping on coffee. Some of us in Europe or whatnot might be sipping on some afternoon tea. And I know that there are a few that have got some, got some toothpicks in their eyes, so they're just trying to stay awake because it's bright and early in the morning. So thank you, everyone across the world for joining us. Again, we want to thank Spark too. Spark has got a sponsorship here, and again, they're research-based. They partner with San Diego State University, and they're a big supporter of online PE professional development. Check them out at sparkpe.org to learn more about it. I'm going to send out a link to a feedback survey for the Phys Ed Summit at the end of the session. If you fill out that feedback survey by February 28th, your name is thrown into a drawing for one Spark Dance DVD, one digital physical education program, one Summer Institute registration, and $150 gift certificate to the Spark store. Also, when you guys fill out that feedback survey, you'll get a certificate emailed to you right away, and that can help you with your PD hours or your PDUs, with your school district and that kind of stuff. So I am done talking for now. That was enough of me. I want to hand the show over to our roundtable participants. A couple people kind of behind the main stage. Adam and Sarah will kind of tell you what they're doing and how you can get involved with them. So I'll send it to Adam first.
Oh, thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
I am Adam Howell. I'm part of the Phys-Ed-A-Go-G team, Phys Ed Summit, and I'm just going to be hanging out and kind of moderating today's meet and talking there and the back channel. So that's, and maybe Twitter a little bit. And if anyone has any technical difficulties in our other hangouts, that's my job, is to figure that out.
Hi everybody, my name is Sarah Gietschier-Hartman, or you might recognize me as Sarah GH from Twitter, and I'm part of the Phys-Ed-A-Go-G team. And today I'm going to be following today's meet and keeping track of that discussion and sharing it with the people who are presenting today, following along on Twitter. And I just wanted to apologize in advance if you notice me popping off the screen. It's because I have a 2.5-week-old newborn that might need my attention during the session today.
And the stars of today, thank you, Adam and Sarah, but the stars of today are the 4 roundtable participants from across the United States and Canada. So I'm just going to throw it out to them. They'll just give a brief introduction on themselves, and so you can kind of get to know.
Hey, I'm Crystal Gorwitz, and I am from Hortonville, Wisconsin, and I have been teaching for 23 years at Hortonville Middle School, and in 2004 I was lucky enough to be named the 2004 National Middle School Teacher of the Year. So happy to be here. Thanks.
I'm Gina Lange, and I am from Kansas City, Missouri, and I teach middle school health and PE at Heritage Middle School in Liberty, Missouri. And this is my 15th year of teaching, and I'm glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Jay Leitz. I teach middle school phys ed in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, which is a suburb of the Detroit area. And go Lions, right, Adam?
Go Lions.
And I noticed Matt had his Jordy Nelson bobblehead in the background, so if you could go ahead and turn that down while we're while we're on here, I'd appreciate it.
There is no
Man, this
chance.
thing's gonna bobble away. Wisconsin.
Go
Wisconsin.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Move him off the screen, please.
Go Marty.
All kidding aside, just really excited to be amongst these superstars, and I probably have more questions than answers, but thanks for having me today, you guys.
Hello, my name is Blue Jay Bridge. I'm a middle school teacher from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I teach at Henry G. Isat Middle School. It's a middle school here. I've been there for 14 years, and I watched the first Phys Ed Summit as best I could and followed along and went back and watched some of the presentations. I was at my kids' swimming lessons that day, but I was watching a lot of action happening on Twitter on that particular morning. And so this is really exciting for me to come and be a part of this live. I'm really excited for us to share with each other and hear what it is that others, what kind of feedback they have for us and questions that they'll ask as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Again, this roundtable's focus is assessment, and we're going to talk about assessment and share some of our best pieces of assessment. So, we had a presentation developed for this, but we decided that it might be best just to see those wonderful faces on the roundtable out there. So I did post on Twitter a link to the presentation. Maybe we can get that on the program here. Too at some point in time, because I know some of you might be watching through the program, and that way you can click on it, you can take a look what everybody's talking about, and you can see some of the resources that they're sharing, because the four people sitting at our round table are presenting some of their best resources, and they've got everything there linked to you. So as they're discussing it, check it out, tweet it out, talk about it on today's meet, and have a good time with it. So assessment, and our focus is assessment, and again, with great assessments, kids win, and that's definitely what we're looking for, and it equals greater and greater best teaching practices, and that's what Physedagogy is about. And first off, we just want to ask the group, where do you all begin, when you're trying to create these assessments and some of your best assessments that are out there? So where do you start with the end in mind?
Maybe I'll begin. I would say that when creating an assessment, really when creating a unit, I begin with our curricular outcomes. So our province, Manitoba, it has a phys ed curriculum that we follow, and so we look at what outcomes it is that we are hoping to cover as part of that unit, and then kind of backwards as to what is an appropriate assessment, when is the timing right, and then how are we going to deliver on these outcomes. So kind of a backwards approach, beginning with the outcomes and then working backwards from them to help drive your instruction and assessments.
I agree with Blue Jay. We kind of look at two main goals when we're trying to plan what we're going to teach, and it's what our kids going to need for high school and what are they going to need for life, and then kind of adjust how we're going to teach that and what we're going to teach from there.
We look at our power standards, and we have vertical alignment finally this year. We have a PLC at our school, and we have a vertical alignment of what we guarantee each student will leave our school knowing. So that's where we start.
One of the things that I find myself doing, I teach at a middle school that's a part of the middle years program with the International Baccalaureate. So we're a little bit different, I think, than some folks out there, but we have 4 criterion that we are supposed to assess in, and so a lot of times I will do a lot of the things that have already been said, but also try to figure out which criterion fits best with that particular unit, and then go from there.
So you guys all talked about standards and objectives. Which ones are you looking at? Which ones are you finding? Where do you find those things? So just share, because I know we're all from different parts of the country, some of us from different countries. But just talk a little bit about those standards and objectives that are out there for you.
Well, we use Wisconsin state standards mainly, but there's a great book put out by Shape America. Outcomes, K-12 physical education, and that's what we built our outcomes from.
We are fortunate that we have state standards through the state of Missouri also, and then we also rely on the Shape America standards that we use when we're looking at what we want to teach. But our time is so limited with our kids that we have really narrowed down what we want to do and what we want our kids to know, so that we can hit the absolute need to know things before we move on. So it's overwhelming when we look at the standards that are out there for the state and for the nation, but then we take and look at our kids and say, what do we really think they need to know for life and for high school?
I'll jump in here. Like I said, we follow our provincial curriculum, and it can be found if you just Googled Manitoba curriculum, and then you could click onto phys ed, although all of the curriculums are listed there, and you can see all of the outcomes. There's lots of great masters that could be utilized by teachers anywhere. Our province is very proud in that we have mandatory phys ed up until grade 12, so you must complete your grade 12 phys ed in order to graduate at high school. And we think that that's a step in creating lifelong learners and bringing that importance of physical education to our students. That it isn't just a chosen option, that it's a requirement that you need to have.
And like Gina, in our school, we have pared down the standards too. We call them power standards. And our power standards are what we guarantee our parents and our community that every student will leave our school knowing.
I like the idea of the power standards because it does not overwhelm the kids, and it allows us to really structure what we're going to teach and make sure that those kids know it. And then if they don't know it, we're not overwhelmed by everything else we have to teach, but we can focus on getting them to know that piece of information.
That's cool. We have a thing called, well, RTR, our Extended Learning Time. And so when we do a common formative assessment, we are using Mastery Connect, and then we can get feedback on which students are not knowing the power standards, and then we get to pull them in as physical educators and then reteach what they don't know, which is awesome. And that just started this year.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, multiple resources for standards and for outcomes and things like that. And I mean, I can hear us looking at state, looking at national. Again, I've even looked at the standards that Blue Jay follows, through Canada, and I know there's a great resource out of Montreal too that I know Joey Fife has shared. And again, just there's a lot of places out there where you can start to look. I love the idea of the power standards though too. Again, we're talking about not overwhelming our students and not overwhelming us and teachers, and it kind of just brings that focus in. So anyone have some great kid-friendly standards that they use in middle school, or is something like that been created? Because I know something like that's been created for the elementary school.
I do not know of anything, but I think it's a great idea. I mean, we try to take the language of the standard, and we post everyday learning targets from that standard that are in I can statements. So the kids understand what the objective or the learning target is from the standard in an I can statement.
That's actually something that I'm kind of working through myself. Our criterion just changed. Like I said, we're an MYP school, and we're on to what's known as the next chapter in MYP, and so the criterion have changed, and I'm kind of trying to digest it myself and figure out a way to articulate it to our kids so it makes sense to them. A lot of times I read them, and my head's spinning, but I think it's so important, obviously, to be able to relate those standards to our kids at their level. So it's actually something that I'm kind of working through right now.
Our district has been very big on us breaking down our standards and looking at what it's really asking, and looking at blooms and looking at all the different levels, so that we're really teaching what we're supposed to teach and then assessing what we're supposed to assess too. So when we do that, we are now trying to break it down into kid language too, so that helps to be able to show the kids what they need to know.
What we've done to determine our power standards is we're a PLC school, professional learning community. And we meet once a week with, we're a very small school district. We only have 6 schools, so we have 2 middle schools. And we meet versus Polycom, so we don't have to travel. And every Monday we meet for 45 minutes, which isn't a long time, but that's how we have gotten to where we are this year finally, with having our vertical alignment and our power standards selected by everyone, which of course we all have our own voice, and it took a long time for us all to speak and agree on what we think the power standards are. And it's really great at our school that we're supported by our administration for physical education, and having that time to collaborate too.
We also are our elementary teachers. Over the past couple of years, we're going through the elementary portion of the curriculum and doing a similar thing, rewriting it into very kid-friendly language and like target-friendly language, so that it could be the learning target for the day. Here it is. Here's what it is. Our folk. That process hasn't begun yet with our middle school curriculum. But that being said, I mean, that certainly is a way that we teach, in that we begin the day with what is our focus, what is our purpose, and what is our focus for today, and what does that target look like after our learning, and then our movement over the course of our 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah, in Wisconsin we have these cool banners that are magnetic, because I have a whiteboard in my gym. It says, "What are we learning today?" And so that's posted in the gym instead of the kids run in and go, "What are we doing today? What are we doing today?" And it's, "What are we learning today?" And the learning target is written on the whiteboard every day. And it's February, but we made it. Yay. They come in now and look at the learning target and the warm up, and they start right away, put it on their pedometers or heart monitors or whatever we're doing for the day.
All right, hearing some awesome stuff being shared about standards out there right now. Again, we've got stuff that happens daily, to focus on, weekly throughout the unit, even the our yearly plans are incorporating some of that stuff, which is awesome. I have a feeling someone out there on Twitter just said challenge accepted when we kind of didn't have that, the student-friendly standards, and I hope that's something that we're going to push for. Because I think that is a great way to deliver it, but it sounds like we all kind of get that voice out there and that's shared with our students anyways, but sure would love to see some collaboration on something like that, again, just for everyone to share, so and everyone to use. So let's continue rolling on. I mean, we now kind of have ideas of how we get to those assessments and what our objectives are, but what are some of the types of assessments out there that we're using in our classes, especially for those middle school age students?
Well, my students, I see them every other day, and the week that I see them 3 times a week, they wear heart rate monitors, Bluetooth heart monitors, on Wednesday for 10 minutes of the class, and on Friday of that week that I see them 3 times for 20 minutes. And I'm really lucky that I have the administrator, the person that I do, because he brought me a projection system for the gym, and so the heart rates are projected on the wall, and they get real-time feedback, and they're all in color. And of course, go Pack. 2 of the levels are green and gold, so we have our challenge of work out like a Packer. So we're in green and gold. Hey, go Pack. So, but that gives them real life, and I was listening to Amanda and Bill's session before this about physical literacy and lifetime, and that teaches them lifetime skills of knowing their heart rate and analyzing it, and that's one of the big things that we assess students on.
I think it's awesome that you're able to use the heart rate monitors. We have old ones and they don't project, and we can't put them on our iPads or anything yet, but I have the kids wearing them, and that's been an awesome formative assessment for me to use with my kids in class, because now when we're looking at participation and grading on their participation in class, they know how high their heart needs to get. They know what exercising hard means and looks to them, and I think that's just one of the best ways we can assess our kids in PE on a regular basis.
I agree. We, yesterday, we're doing pickleball, which if you know what that is, it's like kind of like tennis. And so I challenged the kids. We looked at the perceived exertion chart that I had posted in the gym, and I challenged them. They were wearing heart monitors, and I said, you know, pickleball is not that active. We're down in the 2, 3 of perceived. How could you get your heart rate to project up there in a higher? And so they got together and had strategies, and I had kids in between shots running to the net, running back, doing steps, doing push-ups, doing sit-ups, and they all designed it, and it was awesome, really awesome.
Well, it's amazing what kids will do when they know that that's what they're being asked to do, where they'll all of a sudden start jumping jacks, start jogging in place, start moving around, when it's kids that aren't active at all, but they find a way to make it happen. So I think that's a great formative way of assessing our kids.
I agree.
We, just in regards to speaking about heart rate, as the topic's kind of gone that way, we will about once a month, sometimes every month and a half, do a workout where we will stop every about 5 or 7 minutes and our own pulse for 10 seconds and multiply by 6 and find out where we are at and determine whether or not we're in our target heart rate zone. We do that to help those students in learning, again, how hard they need to work their body and understand that we're all different. We come with different fitness levels, so the movement is going to be different for each people around, each person in your group or throughout the classroom. But how to have that understanding of when you go to, you take that bike ride, or you walk your dog, or you are playing soccer in the backfield, is there a way that you could stop and take a quick measurement for this 10 seconds and figure out, if I wanted this to be a cardio workout, am I working hard enough? And they're likely to have a heart rate monitor on them at that time. So giving them that skill as well of being able to, anywhere time, find out your pulse, do the math, and figure out whether or not you're currently in your target heart rate zone.
I just want to throw in something about that. I was just chatting with Andy Vasily, just honestly one time through our phone, through Google Hangouts, and all of a sudden his students came running into the gym, and of course Andy, in only the way Andy could, puts out his phone and asks me to start teaching his class. All right. So, you know, he's got a big deal on the magic heart rate, and he's like, you know, Mr. Pomeroy, why don't you come up with a quick activity to get their heart rates elevated? So we just kind of came up with it, threw it out there. His students go running around the gym like crazy. He has them come back and boom, I mean, they're right on, and they have figured out exactly how to find that heart rate. They can tell you their heart rate instantly, and if they're in that magic zone. So, Blue, I agree. I've got heart rate monitors, but I think, too, in the same sense, having that ability to be able to test yourself that way and for them to reflect quickly, was I in that magic zone or not, is important. And connect with Andy Vasily if you want to know anything more about how he gets his students set up too. So just had to share that because it was quite the experience, and it was wild. Students. No, go ahead.
Sorry. What I found too this year that has really helped we have 5th grade in our middle school, which is kind of different. And in NASCO catalog, they have this big heart rate chart, but you could make your own that has a arrow on it, and then it has all the different heart rates, and the colored zones are on that wheel with the arrow. And so I have the kids, you know, we take our heart rates as 5th graders, and then they go up to the chart and then move the arrow to where they are, and then they can learn about heart rates visually. So of course I'm a visual learner, and see where their heart rate is and what colored zone it is, so they can progress then to 6th grade with the colored zones in 7th grade. It's really helpful.
So I have a question. Maybe I could pop in here and ask it. And this is probably more relevant for folks who are in the U.S. right now. So in Oregon, in our district, we just use the Shape America standards. Not the our Oregon State standards are relatively out of date and very vague. They're like from 2000. So and all the things we're sharing right now, that would be how we kind of assess our standard 3. You know, that demonstrates the knowledge and skills to achieve and maintain a enhancing level of physical activity and fitness. Or I think our kid-friendly language is, I exercise regularly and know how to stay fit. But for us, a challenge has been how to assess standards 1 and 2. So standard 1 for shape, in a nutshell, is kind of the skill-based one. You know, the motor skill or the fundamental skills with and movement patterns. And then standard 2 is kind of the tactics and strategies and gameplay. So really for us, it's you know, we look at, well, how do you assess that? You know, it's more of kind of like a performance assessment. But I kind of wanted to ask that question of all of you, of those skill-based standards, you know, how do you assess those? Like, what is your, do you assess them, or how do you assess them? Do you report that out via grades, or what do you do regarding those skill-based standards?
I'll just jump in here real quick. I'm not going to act like this is something that I'm doing on a regular basis, but for example, one of the things that I've dabbled in with some of my students and I'm trying to gear up towards is having students almost design a resource that would teach others about that particular skill. So for example, and I was telling Matt maybe a couple months ago, all of our students at the middle school level just got iPads, and so we are, you know, trying to do things where kids are almost, you know, designing and doing more creating to demonstrate their understanding of certain concepts. And so for example, one of the things I did with an 8th grade class is we were doing a lacrosse unit last year, and they used an app to take a picture of one of their teammates and then kind of dissect whatever skill it was that they selected. I let them choose from a handful of skills that we were working on during that particular unit. And the assessment was they were asked to break down what they were seeing on the picture and using an app like Sketch, for example. And I think we've had some success with that.
To go off of Jay, we have used Coach's Eye with checklists and had the kids, you know, start with pre-assessment with a checklist with a peer assessment. And when we start the unit, we pre-assess with a checklist for the skills and where they are. And then the post-assessment is done with Coach's Eye and app. And again, I'm just so lucky. This is the first year that I've had this projection system in the gym, and it's just so fabulous to have the kids, you know, project. They see themselves up there, and it's really not. At first, I was a little leery, like, are they going to point out, you know, all the wrong things kids were doing? But no, they've been really helpful with oh, that's how you know, oh, I see that I'm not stepping with the opposite foot or things like that, and it's not in a negative connotation.
I'm going to jump in next, and just in sharing the skill evaluations, a formative evaluation. One of the things I just recently did with basketball, this was with grade 5s, was, it'll be hard to see this here, I'm sure, but we used this poster from the physical educators from Joey Fight, and it's a wonderful poster. It has it's this regards to the set shot, and it's got it broken down into main cues, and there's some QR codes that the kids can scan that bring you to an exemplar of somebody doing the set shot, and it shows it in full motion and then slow motion, and so it's fabulous. And then from there, sorry for like kind of just putting this up on your screen and pretending like as if you can actually see this. But anyways, there is a link to this sheet on the slide. I'm not gonna bother putting that up there. You can't see it. But anyways, there's a checklist there that the students go through together. They videotape each other, taking about 4 or 5 shots using an app called UberSense, much like Coach's Eye video analysis app. And they go back and look at their set shot with their partner and put it in slow motion and slow it right down and determine were they bending their legs and were they pushing off, and you know, did they have their elbow at the 9-degree angle, and did we finish up nice and tall, and did we snap our wrist, and all these sort of things. they go through that whole process. What skill was I doing really well? What skill do I need to work on more? What is a way that I'm going to what is a way that I can practice this area? So if it's snapping the wrist, what can I do to see improvements in that? So that's near the beginning of the unit. And we play some games and do some more teaching and learning in this set shot, for example. And then we've just recently finished up our basketball, and so we do a summative evaluation. And our evaluations, whether they're skill or knowledge-based, are all now on a 4-point scale, with 4 being a thorough understanding or thorough ability shown, 3 being a very good understanding or ability shown, 2 is basic, 1 is limited, and there is no 0, but kind of 0 would be does not demonstrate yet the required understanding and applications of these skills. So now at this point, now I evaluate you. Here's the piece that I'm looking for, and then you get an evaluation based on that 4-point scale, which I think makes a lot of sense in really making it more well known and a little more kid friendly. That these are all of these 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all levels of success. A 1 out of 4 is a level of success. There's nothing negative about that. That means you've passed this level of success there. We have some things to work on. A 2 out of 4, a 3 out of 4, they're all just levels of success. And so which level of success are you currently at?
I have to be honest in that we don't grade much on skill-based things. Since our time with our kids is so limited, we want to get them in, get them exercising, get them moving, and really focus on a participation level and a heart rate level and that kind of thing. Our elementary level is very, very skill-based and focused, and so we kind of build on that, and it's just us going around and helping them become better with their skills if they need it, but we don't focus so much on the skill stuff because it just takes up too much of our time.
I thought, Adam, to share something that I saw from you on Twitter about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I thought was really quite genius. Was you had I think it was a Google form or a Google Doc where a student could upload a video of themselves playing ultimate frisbee, and then fill out answers to questions, and it was almost like a self-reflection on standard 2 tactics and strategies. And I thought that was a great assessment tool because there's the video analysis part of it, and then the student can explain what it is that they see and that they understand pertinent to the second standard.
Yeah, I did. I was trying to do things like that with some video upload and things of that nature. And it was a little clunky I was using Google, and I was trying to get all the videos dropped into a folder, and I was using an add-on, and that was kind of goofy, but yeah, at the heart of the matter, I was working a lot with students kind of, and it wasn't like at the start of a unit, it wasn't like a pre-assessment, but it was like a formative check midway through, like where it got to the point where there was some background knowledge and some learning that had already happened, and then they were kind of self-assessing themselves based on watching video of themselves.
I just think for me that was so profound because a lot of times I was finding myself just kind of walking around with a clipboard and giving a kid a score, and there wasn't a whole lot of feedback or back and forth between myself and the student. It was just kind of a score, and it didn't really have a whole lot of meaning behind it. So what I thought you shared really, allowed for, again, some self-reflection and also an opportunity to provide more meaningful feedback.
Yeah, I think that was a game changer for me, and we've all shared it in the roundtable so far, whether it's Coach's Eye or UberSense or whatever apps we're using. When kids are able to see video of themselves and we're able to capture that in an efficient way, which a lot of these mobile apps has allowed us to do that, it's really been eye-opening as far as student understanding and attaching meaning to what it is that they're doing. And it's so much easier to do that than setting up a tripod with a camera in the corner and filming kids in an isolated task. So that's mobile devices have really they've blown the barn doors off the or blowing the doors off the barn and being able to do that quickly.
Well, I think it gives you the feedback as a teacher that you need to continue to assess on what else you need to do, and how else you can help your students continue to be successful and continue to grow too. So I think that's key, is how do you continue to look at the ongoing assessments through, whether it's the skills and whether it's through heart rate monitors, those types of things. Like, how do you keep it going throughout the unit? I think is pretty important too. So anyone else have other ideas that they can share that they use throughout the unit to assess and to give feedback and to change your teaching?
Well, I use sorry, Blue. Go ahead, Blue.
You know, I'll just be very, very quick. I just want to kind of piggyback on Adam, and just to say as well that when we use the kids and have them utilize their device, it legitimizes that what it is that's inside of their pocket is a learning tool, that it doesn't necessarily have to be, and it can be, get you very off task for sure. There's lots of things pulling you in lots of directions, but when utilized properly, it in and of itself is a learning tool for you to learn. Every answer in the world is in there, and when you find out some of those answers to your questions, the key is, when you found out that answer, what is the next question that now has come from that answer that you didn't even know was a question previous to you determining that answer. So I think legitimizing that computer that's in their pockets as a learning tool is a wonderful thing. Not just us as phys ed teachers, but us as just teachers.
That was awesome. I just have to say that. That was like Oprah says, aha moment for me, Blue Jay. That was great what you just shared. I also use pedometers for analyzing my own teaching and my students' movement, because it shows me if their pedometer steps are really low, they're not getting the most out of the class. So I use pedometers in two ways: for the students to know that they how much movement is required for that day, but also tells me about my teaching. Am I talking too long, and am I having them? Usually don't have them stand in lines, but it's a good assessment tool as a teacher.
I use a 4-point scale that I grade my kids on each day, and so they can go into Power School and see what their grade is for that day. So it's immediate feedback to them. Some of them will even ask on their way out the door, and we'll take a quick little survey of what they think their score was for the day based on our rubric that we have made up based on participation. So I find that giving them feedback, talking one-on-one, giving them the stuff immediately is what's going to help them the best. We also have a 4-point scale that we use for our fitness testing that they are constantly trying to improve on throughout the year, so that we make fitness testing meaningful to them and how they can are going to need these different cardiovascular endurance, strength, all that kind of stuff later on in their life and all throughout their life. So we really utilize 4, 3, 2, 1 so much because it's just a quick, easy method to do.
One of the things you said there, Gina, that kind of hit home with me, you talked about the conversation that you're having with kids and the one-on-one time. And the scope of my job this year, I'm not in the classroom teaching PE. I will be back again next year. I'm excited about that. But a lot of what I'm working on is we're going through some big changes and reforms in our teacher evaluation system. And one of my biggest takeaways, with adults, with teachers, is that a number doesn't mean anything, or where you're at on a rubric really is not very meaningful. It's really about the conversation, the professional conversation that you're having with, your principal or whoever the person is who's giving you feedback. And that, for adults, that's like the biggest gateway to, learning, is the conversations and the reflection and things like that. And I think it's so true with kids too. It's like getting that feedback, not just written feedback, but like verbal feedback where you're talking with the kid and having that one-on-one conversation is such an important aspect that of learning for them. And it's just huge.
I just want to go back and even talking about some of the pieces that you're having your students create, like, Jay, you talked about, using Stitch to talk about the skills, and we've talked about using UberSense apps to break down skills and things like that. One of the coolest things I think you could then do with that, and I don't know how many of you do or whatever, is how cool is it to use those things then to start teaching the skills next year. So now you're having your students create things, they're showcasing their learning, and then they're also creating things for you to use. And I've done some of those things too, where once the student starts teaching in that sense, the students really buy into it. So they see what students have done in the last year, and they learn from other students, and I think it's just another awesome way to get students to buy into what they're doing in your class right now. So, all right, well, we're rounding down here to the last 15 minutes. So obviously we want to go big too. So I think just kind of thinking about sharing, like, what are your favorite assessments? Like, what are your most effective? What are some of the assessments that you just love to use? And if you want to talk about apps and things that you use for that kind of stuff. And I know that everyone shared some of these in that presentation. So again, go back and look at it, tweet it out, share everything that they're doing, because it's some amazing stuff. So I'm going to let you guys just kind of go and go off here and have some fun.
Well, I took an activity this year where my 6th graders have been working so hard on cardiovascular endurance. That was one of our biggest learning goals this year. And then my 7th graders were working on muscular strength and endurance. And so we've been constantly working on it through the whole first semester. And start of second semester, I had them create their own workout plan. So I've given them tons of examples throughout the course of the year, and then I gave them a template to follow so that they could create a workout plan for themselves, so that sometime in the summer or next year or when they're in college, they want to exercise, they know how to go about creating an exercise plan. And it was amazing to see their creativity. We just kind of opened the gym up and the weight room up, and they got to go in and just experiment with things that they've learned and put together their own workouts, and they loved it, and the things I got from them were amazing. So now we're going to take those activities, and they get to teach it to the class different times throughout the year when we have little breaks here and there, or crazy days and that kind of thing. So they get to share that information with others and show that they have built up this confidence to kind of build those lessons. But it was so fun to see happen.
To piggyback off that, this year we decided that we looked at our muscular strength and endurance, and we decided every Thursday we're doing Tough Thursday. And so we have taught them, they have to learn the muscle groups, and then myself and the other 2 teachers I teach with, taught them different exercises just like Gina did. We had them design a student-designed Tough Thursday workout, and they had different roles in the group. So one was the video director, one was the teacher, one was the demonstrator, and one was the timer, because we have introverted kids that don't want to get in front of the class. And just like Gina, they blew me away. They stood up there and they said muscle groups, and they came up with these amazing exercises and were evaluated with a rubric that they assessed themselves on, and it was awesome. Just like Gina said, to have them be in charge and know that they can do that outside of class.
We had our students recently perform a 1-minute dance routine, and I used to be scared to death to teach dance, but it has become my favorite unit by far for a variety of reasons, mainly because each group at some point during the unit they have to overcome some kind of hurdle or struggle or challenge, and they usually do, and then by the end of it, after they perform their routine, they're really proud of themselves. But not to go off on a tangent, but the assessment that I used recently was kind of similar to what we talked about with yours previously, Adam, with the Ultimate Frisbee unit. Is I had a Google form, and students had to upload their video and essentially use the Google form to reflect on their performance, and not only reflect on their performance, but also the plan that they had designed for their routine, and how effective that plan was, these are all concepts that are pretty common throughout the middle years program.
I'll just jump in as well and kind of piggyback on Jay in regards to dance. and although I do introduce it as dance, I quickly change the words to it's a collection of movements, and that for people who can be scared about that word dance can feel a little better about it's a collection of movements. Can we get 4 people in a row and be doing this at the same time? Well, that's a movement, and so now can we add, of course, more elements to that, and can we do that to the beat, and can we be in succession with each other, and so different learning that happens in there. They also will do a presentation, and last year we gave them the option of either presenting their collection of movements, their dances, live or via video, and found that the students who recorded a video and then showed that in class did a much better job. And I think they would go back and re-record it, 10 or 15 times or whatever, until they felt like this is the best that we can do. And that's when they were prepared for, we're ready for this to be shown in class. And we wound up having a couple of groups that did such a wonderful job that I asked our grade 9 multimedia teacher to give us a group of his students to videotape a collection of some grade 6 girls who'd put together a wonderful dance. And so they videotaped it from different angles, and now they currently are editing it up into kind of like a video kind of a thing with graphics, and I'm not even too sure what they're going to come up with that we will use to introduce our dance unit this upcoming year. So another way of just bringing other classes involved and celebrating that learning that has happened from your own students.
I think there's also a lot of awesome technology things out there that we can use to look at different assessments. And the fun things for our kids, our building just went one-to-one this year, so we are one-to-one Chromebooks with our 6th and 7th graders and one-to-one MacBooks with our 8th graders. And so we've utilized things like Kahoot and ThingLink, BlendSpace, all kinds of different things where they can go in, and Kahoot's one of their favorites, where it's a quick little game and they race on their computer to try to get the correct answer, but it also prints out for me who picked what answer, and gives me that quick feedback too that I can use with my classes. So any way that we can kind of quickly involve their laptops into our PE lesson at the end is great for our building.
I think for me, assessment, my favorite assessment, I guess, is it's not one particular assessment. It's really kind of a way of thinking about assessment more than anything, and it's not a cop-out. It's traditionally, when I first was going through like my prep program and was learning about lesson structure in PE, it was very you have your instant activity and warm-ups and your anticipatory set. You have your fitness, then you have your skill-based portion of class and your closure, and it all ties in together. And I've moved away from that, where it's I set up my space. My gym space is set up to be able to be doing fitness and whatever our skill, whatever our unit is at the same time within the structure of the gym. And I use like the basketball court for a certain portion and the outside areas for another portion. And it's so it's very differentiated, and there's a lot of student choice involved on when they do what. And that's helped me manage really big classes as big as like 45 students in one gym. And with that said, so with regards to assessment, it's really important that the culture of assessment in my classroom is that it's not punitive, it's not a gotcha, we're a continuum of learning, and it's just a demonstration of what you know now and where we need to go. And so not everyone takes an assessment at the same time. Assessments, used to, when I give an assessment, a pretest or a post-test, everyone would do it at the same time. Now that's not necessarily the case. I may have it set up where students can take an assessment within a certain window where when they're ready for it. Colin Brooks shared a elementary strategy he uses, and I think it's brilliant, where he has a special pool noodle, and it's like chopped off in a special color, and when they're doing certain activities, if a student gets tagged with that noodle, it's their turn to go take a quick assessment. And then after they're done taking the quick assessment, they go back into the activity and they tag someone else. And so kids are popping out one by one to take an assessment, and it's not everyone sitting down together doing an assessment at one time. And so it's just completely built into the flow of the class. and things like that, like quick formative checks or things like that, are kind of the direction that I've gone. I've tried to really make assessment as integrated and as seamless as possible within the instruction that I'm already doing.
I would love to share my favorite assessments that I use in my classes. I try to do really quick assessments that don't take a lot of time, and really assess the cognitive aspects of what I'm asking my students to learn, or to find out what they have learned in my classes. And a lot of the things that I do are written, but they do not take a lot of time at all. And one of my favorite ones that I did was a chart where on one half of the paper the students had to describe ways that they could move without the ball in basketball in order to get open and create space. And I know that getting open and creating space is a strategy that they use in a lot of the games that they play. Matt and I talk about that a lot. It's something that we like to assess with our students constantly. And then on the other half of the paper, it was ways that they could move, with the ball, or, so one half was with the ball and one was without. But I also allowed my students not only to write down their answers, but they could also draw them if they wanted. And the responses that I get from them and the drawings that I get from them are just unbelievable. I have them hanging all over my office, just little cartoons everywhere. And so when I think of assessment, whether it's formative or summative, I always try to think of kind of those formative strategies that are really, really quick, where you're getting instant feedback. But I also make sure to let my students know, is this formative or is this summative? Is this something that, and I tell them ahead of time, and I know that they really appreciate when they know when they're being assessed and what they're being assessed over, and they do thank me for that, which kind of makes me think that they aren't always being told those things in their other classes, which is kind of worrisome.
Awesome. Well, obviously, great ideas from daily to when they're out for just a little bit, to stopping quickly, to some pretty massive assessments. I think that's the key thing, is assessments can come in all shapes and forms, and you can see that assessment piece from a pencil and paper. Again, it doesn't have to be big, but it's just that to technology, to uses of technology, they're out there and they're all over the place, and I think obviously very important. So I guess I would kind of go with the same thing like Adam kind of said, is I definitely like to utilize those assessments, and those are some of my favorites, where you can check them throughout the unit, maybe have peers check them, maybe have them check themselves, maybe have that teacher check, and I think that those are extremely important. And then I also, like using those big assessments where, like some of you have discussed, where you're creating a workout routine and a professional, like a plan, a personal fitness plan. And again, it's big things that really showcase their learning, whether it's through video, whether it's through a Google Doc, and then I think the key thing is I do some of those really big assessments is how can that be showcased back to their parents and our community, which can then continue to help advocate for our program too. So I think some of the biggest assessments I've done are workout routines, our fitness plans, and that kind of stuff. Make sure they get shared home so that conversation can come back to their parents, and their conversation can then be carried out and helped and kind of worked on outside of school too. So again, those are some of my favorite assessments to use, and I will share those out, a few of the examples I have right after this too. So some closing thoughts. What else do we need to add here?
Well, what the person I teach with, Brian Fletcher, he came up with a really great idea to get family involved, and he came up with at-home homework. It was called Smart TV, and instead of watching the commercials on a television program, the family came up with exercises, and they did them during the commercials, and then they wrote down what the exercises were that they did as a family. And we just had parent-teacher conferences, and that was like the number one thing that the parents talked to me about was, thanks for getting us together. We're not looking at our devices and texting. We were exercising together, even if it was, and a lot of kids said, well, I can't watch TV, and we just said, just time yourself for 2 minutes, and they really, really loved that. And I didn't come up with that. The guy that I teach with did, and the parents loved it. Get them involved.
I would just add that when you are planning for your units and when you're assessing, to as much as possible, try to find opportunities to personalize it to your students. So if you're speaking about cardiovascular endurance or muscular strength or whatever, you tell me about a sport you are currently or have done that you have some knowledge in, and tell me where muscular strength, how that helps you as an athlete in that particular sport. How you having good cardiovascular endurance in soccer, and I've got poor cardiovascular endurance in soccer, what can you do better than I to show their understanding? So as opposed to you directing the learning with, hey, we're all talking about basketball right now, tell me in a that you have some knowledge and interest in, and allow them to personalize it.
To piggyback off of Crystal, I post on our Google Classroom once a month a calendar for the month, and it gives them maybe 5 to 10 minutes of exercises to do a night, and they can, there's a cardio endurance, there's a strength, and then there's a flexibility thing, because what I find is they're all so tight and can't move. But then they go home, and a lot of the parents have picked that up and started doing it with them too. So I share that with them at conferences, and the parents look it over and immediately say, I'll do this with you while you're at home. So it's bringing fitness into their home a little bit too. And I find that a great way to connect with them, kind of like we talked about earlier.
Well, I mean, I guess just kind of last thing from me here. Just remembering back to when I was in middle school and when I was in high school, and I want to throw it back to just the phys pedagogy team and how professional development is changing. But you know, if you think when we were growing up, and maybe when we were going through PE, it wasn't so much like the cognitive aspect of what was going on in the game that people were assessing. It wasn't so much, you know, checking the students' understanding of how they're going to be fit through the rest of their lives and how they can apply it to their sports or their activities that they are. Like, I was assessed on how far away was the free throw line from the basketball court, and how tall was the hoop, and and all those different things. And the basketball court is, so many feet by so many feet. And what I really enjoy is hearing that we're all looking at knowledge and how important it is to have the understanding of the games, the understanding of our activities and what's going on inside our body, to continue to be lifelong learners. And I think we've made a massive change right now, and I'm proud of all of you and all of us for doing that. And I know Adam can probably close this out in a pretty good way too, so I'm going to throw it over to him just for fun.
Put me on the spot. This is unscripted and not planned. Thanks. No, I don't have much to add other than that. I think, you're right. Physical education is changing. I think social media, Twitter, blogging, Voxer, ed camps, these types of professional development opportunities, the Phys Ed Summit has expedited things. And I think in a lot of ways, it's very much energized a lot of people. I see a lot of mid-year teachers or teachers who are halfway through their career, where things get stagnant, things get old, and then they find something that totally re-energizes them. And it can be different. It's not always technology or or online PD, but specifically towards online PD, that seems to be a huge catalyst for a lot of people. And so we're getting a lot of momentum, and we're starting, I think, to get to a point. Andy Vasily mentioned it in his first keynote for the Phys Ed Summit, that tipping point where our influence is starting to become noticed. And I know Shape America has taken a notice to it. PHE Canada has noticed. I mean, I think it's great that it's where our voices are starting to cause a shift. And it's a big difference of even how it was 6 months ago. And I don't know what the future holds for it, but I think as long as people continue to share their enthusiasm and their passion, and we make that visible in public, and people see that, I think it can only benefit the profession. So thanks for joining today, at the roundtable, because this is a Saturday morning that you're giving up to be here, just to talk shop basically, and it's really cool. That's all I got, Matt.
All right. Well, we'll let everyone say thank you just one more time, and if you got one last little thing you want to add, just go ahead and add it in. We'll give you your last 15 seconds. So send it over to Crystal.
Me? Wow.
Again, it could just be a thank you. It could be whatever. But Crystal's my Wisconsinite, so of course I'm sending it to her.
Well, all I want to say is the pack rules. No. Just kidding. What I want to say is that I'm just a little older, and I've been teaching for 23 years, and I graduated from college in 1980. And you can teach an old dog new tricks. So people out there that are my age, just pretty close to 60, you can learn so much, and I learned so much from Twitter. You need to get on Twitter. I'm on Voxer now, and it's so exciting. And people go, at my school, they didn't even know what Voxer was, and I taught them, physical education teachers. So just know that I'm a lifelong learner like the rest of you, and I am so excited to be part of this group today, and I have learned so much from all of you. Thank you. And that the older teachers at your school, like me, tell them to get on board. People out there that are been teaching for like over 20 years like I am, you can learn something new every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
I am grateful for this opportunity to have gotten to be on here and share a little bit about what we do at Heritage Middle School and kind of our philosophy of PE. But this whole virtual learning is just amazing and awesome, and the way that education is going. And I think it is a great thing that PE is kind of right in on that and leading the way with it. So keep up the good work, guys. Thank you for joining us, Gina.
Yeah, I'll just echo some of the same things that Crystal said. It's just so inspirational to follow you guys along on Twitter and to be a part of this roundtable. In a lot of ways, I feel like I don't really belong. I'm just kind of I sent an email to Adam about a year and a half ago, and I told him in the email that I almost feel like I need to go back to undergrad. There's so many awesome things happening, and I'm kind of stuck in that traditional phys ed class situation, trying to break out of it. But keep, as we say in our school district, keep living out loud, you guys, and putting out all the awesome stuff that you guys are doing in your classes, because it inspires me, and I steal from it just about every day. So keep it going, and go Lions! I gotta go. I'd go get my Megatron bobblehead, but I'm not sure what my daughter did with it. So I'll just say go Lions.
It's put away. Yeah, got first place in the division now.
Oh man,
next year.
There's a joke in there about choking against the Seahawks, but I won't go there. I won't go there. Too soon?
Whoa, that cut right to the right to the heart there. I used to like you, Jay. Yeah.
Well, Jay, we're glad to have you, man. Even with the lion comments. So I know it's appreciated. We're glad to have you here, and this is a part of being that connected educator. And like I said, we're glad to have you on Twitter. Glad to have you here. So much appreciated. All right, Blue.
Yeah, I'll say thank you for this opportunity, and say that I can recall when going through university, my professors, phys ed professors, telling us how important it was that we be promoting our profession and bringing that respectability to it. And a lot of phys ed teachers have done a lot of really hard work to bring it to where it is currently at, where it is becoming more and more respected and understood its place for our students, our children's learning. And I think that us doing things like this here today, having these discussions, having them in these open public ways through here, sending it off through YouTube, having open discussions on Twitter and Voxer and Instagram and blah, 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 blah. all these places that we are doing these things as opposed to behind closed doors legitimize us as educators and our profession and the importance for it for our students, for our children, for their learning, and for us as a society. So thanks a lot for this opportunity.
Thank you, long lost brother. So Blue and I are going to meet at some point in time. Someday our paths will cross. But
yeah, it is.
Always inspirational hearing them talk. Sarah, I think it's time for you to introduce, coming from the backstage. Your today's meet was rocking. I mean, there was tons of chat. Coming from the backstage, let's see that little one of yours.
Oh yeah, this is Max. He's 2.5 weeks old, and he's kind of starving right now, so I'm gonna go in just a second. But he's really happy though and sleepy. But yeah, I just want to thank everybody for participating in today's meet and asking some really valuable questions. And I hope that we were able to answer all of them. I think we were. I included everybody's Twitter handles in there so that you can start following everybody and connect with them if you need to. I also put the link out for the feedback survey, which the Phys-Ed team would really appreciate it if you could fill that out. And it's also being tweeted out, and it's on our website and things like that. So just thanks so much to everybody who participated, both our roundtable panel and the people in today's meet and the people on Twitter. We really, really appreciate it. And I think we had another successful Phys-Ed Summit, which we're really, really pumped about. So thank you.
Yeah, it's sad we have to say goodbye to you all, but I'm sure the Phys-Ed team right now is going to go on Voxer and start planning the Phys-Ed Summit. we might reflect for a good 30 minutes upon this one and then move on from there. So there are definitely plans in the works. Keep your eyes peeled for it. But again, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thanks for being here. I believe, again, I hold up I'm 2 for 2 on holding the longest roundtable discussion. That was never planned. But again, just thanks everybody. We appreciate you being here and showcasing the great stuff that you're doing. So we are signing off right now.
Thanks, guys.